If there's one game I wasn't sure needed a remaster, it's Horizon Zero Dawn. It still looks absolutely lush on PS4, so I'm quite intrigued to see this myself, so let's dive straight in. Such a good looking game.
Even today, Horizon Forbidden West on PlayStation 5 stands as one of the best looking games available this generation. The lush world overflowing with detail is stunning to behold, offering a significant leap over its predecessor on PlayStation 4, Horizon Zero Dawn. Yet, despite the gap, I think most would argue that the original Horizon Zero Dawn is still a beautiful game, especially with the bump to 60 frames per second when played on a PlayStation 5. So, the very idea of remaking this game seemed silly when we first caught wind of it. But it turns out that's not what we're looking at all, and instead we have a robust remaster.
Actually, let's just pause and have a quick look at this. Remaster versus original. Yeah, I'd say the remaster looks a heck of a lot nicer there. The water has a lot more obvious transparency. You see all them rocks and detail underneath. The straw has got a lot more natural look to it, and the foliage is more detailed. The background is a lot better shading and lighting, and looks a lot nicer. Yeah, promising start.
Instead, we have a robust remaster helmed primarily by Nixies that manages to greatly enhance the visuals while introducing a full suite of options that we first
see there though. Initially, I was drawn towards the one on the right hand side, which is the original. I know there's more muted colours on this one, and you've got more detail going on in the water and things like that, and the background's a little bit more detailed, but I was initially drawn to the one on the right hand side because of the way the colours look, and it looks so nice. Interesting.
While introducing a full suite of options that we first saw in the second game. So just what is Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered? Well, that's what we're going to cover today. I'll walk you through the game's new visuals and discuss what has changed in this transition to PlayStation 5. So, is it worth checking out? Let's find out.
It's going to be interesting, this one. The first game looks so nice, and you can see it then on them side by sides.
When you first boot up this new version of Horizon, perhaps the first thing you'll notice is the option to import a save from the PlayStation 4 version. This is not a full remake after all, so you can directly pull over that original save data, and in my case, I decided to leverage this to start a New Game Plus, with the full selection of equipment available from the beginning. But before doing so, I peeked into the options menu and found that all the gameplay, HUD, accessibility options, and performance modes that were available in Horizon Forbidden West have made the jump to this new version of Zero Dawn. The options menu is robust and packed with stuff that you did not see in the original game, allowing you to better tweak the gameplay to your tastes. And as noted, this includes those performance options. Like Forbidden West, players have access to a 30 FPS mode, 40 FPS mode, and a 60 FPS mode, with each offering various trade-offs between performance and image quality.
60
the
FPS,
game
please?
seems to use dynamic resolution scaling exactly like Forbidden West, with the quality mode aiming for a native 4K, while performance mode drops slightly, targeting around 1800p on average. Thankfully, the anti-aliasing used matches the current version of Forbidden West, so it's clear right away that it's cleaner than the initial launch version of that.
See, on this one, like, you have to look a little bit to see the difference between the performance and the resolution mode. And in a game like this, I'd pick performance mode all day long to get that nice 60 frames smooth gameplay. But it's each to their own on that. But if I have to look to try and see the graphical difference from the resolution mode, then obviously this is on YouTube, so you're not seeing it properly on this. But Yeah, I'll just take performance mode generally all day long.
In the initial launch version of that game. Beyond image quality differences, however, these three modes are all roughly the same visually. Personally, the image quality in performance mode is strong enough that I recommend this mode over the others. Beyond image quality differences, however, the three modes are all roughly the same. Personally, the image quality in performance mode is strong enough that I recommend this mode over the others.
Exactly.
Now, Nixie's also confirmed to us that Horizon Remastered already includes PS5 Pro support, which will automatically activate when played on the new console, so that's something else we'll be curious to test out soon. It's also worth mentioning that performance is by and large perfect. You get 30, 40, or 60 frames per second depending on the selected mode, and in my experience it pretty much holds this target perfectly. I'm showing performance mode footage here, as that would technically be the most demanding, but the others are just as stable. But there's actually a small Easter egg in here for owners of VRR displays.
How nice is that?
When using the performance mode with a VRR-enabled TV or monitor, the 60 frames per second cap is removed, allowing the frame rate to go beyond this point. Now, it doesn't go far beyond that point, mind you, but it's still interesting and it kind of future-proofs the game for future consoles. But clearly, the main focus here is on the presentation, and while this is still fundamentally Horizon Zero Dawn, the team at Nixie's has taken great pains to flesh out the world to be more consistent with the second game in terms of detail. So, firstly, the entire suite of next-generation materials has been deployed from Forbidden West, but often tweaked to better work within this game. They've replaced the terrain system, the foliage, and added detail where previously there was none, and this includes creating their own brand new assets even. Now, just running side by side in a view like this does reveal a lot, but perhaps not enough in a simple YouTube video if you don't know what to look for. Instead, if you stop and look closer at individual assets, the boost in quality is a lot more evident. It's clear enough when you're playing on your actual TV, mind you, but if you're watching this video on, say, a phone or a laptop, this is kind of necessary. And you can see that there's both an increase in the number of unique plants and an increase in actual quality here in this first area. Everything's simply more detailed, falling roughly in line with Forbidden West. Now, it's interesting to see that the team went through and seems to have closely matched the different types of foliage expected in each biome, but used complete...
I've thought this 2 or 3 times now, when they're showing these panning side-by-side shots like this almost looks like a previous generation game. I know it is technically, because the original was like PS4, but yeah, it's really evident in this. So it's like the jump now from the remaster. This looks like a version, if it was released on the PS5, which is the point of a remaster. So this right now is, to me, looking like a really, really good remaster. I know a lot of people are saying there's too many remasters coming, but I'd rather have the choice. What people prefer than them not to do them and have no choice at all. I'd much rather have the option.
Types of foliage expected in each biome, but use completely different assets that look a lot better. So for instance, if you look in a different biome, you're going to see a completely different set of plants, but ones that still match the artistic intent of the original. According to Nixie's, they looked very closely at the game's original concept art and also discussed these changes with the art team at Guerrilla Games. And honestly, it really impresses me, I have to say. It's the kind of thing that at first glance you might not think much of, but really a lot of effort has clearly gone into this. Popping into man-made areas instead, there's a sense that things have been hugely improved here as well. For instance, the stonework used throughout Meridian is hugely improved in this new version. Instead of just displaying a flat texture like the original game, the individual stones now have proper height and interact with the lighting model. Still, I have to admit, when you're just viewing a pair of clips from each version of the game, it's not unfair to say that finding the difference can be a little bit tricky. That is, if you don't know what to look for. Furthermore, the original game still looks pretty good. This is very much an upgrade focused on nitty-gritty detail, so not everyone's going to notice or appreciate the boost in detail, which is what makes these comparisons so difficult. But that brings us on to some of the other changes, because there is more to this than just boosting the detail of the environments around you. For instance, water rendering. Now this is something I took issue with back in my original analysis of Zero Dawn. The water simply never looks very good in that game. It uses an ugly, low-resolution approximate cube map along with very limited screen space reflections. The sequel, though, absolutely blew the doors off the first game with amazing water rendering throughout. Zero Dawn Remastered, in comparison, kinda sits somewhere in the middle. It never appears quite as striking as the sequel, mind you, but the improved SSR and fallback reflection systems do make a big difference. But the quality of both elements has been dramatically improved. Reflections can admittedly appear slightly pixelated on close analysis, but it's miles beyond the original game, and it now really shows off the surroundings, leading to much more attractive scenes. Similar to the second game, the underlying reflection texture seems to update in real time based on the surroundings. So in this clip, I've occluded the scenery from view, limiting what SSR can show, yet you can see that the underlying reflection map is updating to match the off-screen scenery. It's much better than the approximate, often misaligned cube map used in the original game. Furthermore, if you tilt the camera straight down, you can see the improved caustics and handling of light above and below the surface. It's much more pleasing to the eye. Scenes like this really showcase how much better the water rendering can be in the remastered version. And given how much water there is in this game, it's honestly one of the largest improvements. They even boosted the quality of the ripple effect that follows in Aloy's wake as she swims through any bodies of water. But beyond such bodies of water, there's also improvement to natural weather-related phenomena. The deforming snow that was first introduced in the Frozen Wilds, for instance, is now available for use across the entire game, for both snow and sand, again, like the sequel. Furthermore, Aloy's outfit can become caked with things like snow as you move through it, adding to the realism. The key here is that all these atmospheric and weather-related elements are just a lot better now, producing more atmosphere.
So there's another version here where I actually prefer the look of the original. Sometimes they kind of play around with the colours a lot, and the original colours were the intended colours, and they kind of, these remasters sometimes I feel like they change the colour for the sake of making it look different. I mean, yeah, add in these extra bushes and trees and extra detail and stuff, but why play around with the colours like this? That canyon, the rocks down in the background, I think look a lot better than what is on the screen there. That looks like kind of what's that meant to be. Some things just add in some more detail and just leave the colours and the main scene as it was. Some of this is changing it for the sake of changing it, I think. But hey, shows how good the original was.
That all these atmospheric and weather-related elements are just a lot better now, producing more atmospheric results as you explore the world. Volumetric lighting has also been improved significantly, much like the second game, adding a huge amount of depth to the scenes where it's used. This was not just a simple plug-and-play solution either. This required a lot of time and effort from the art team in order to get it looking right, because fundamentally it's not an automatic process. The same is true of the cloud system, where they managed to migrate over to Nubis, the cloud system developed for the second game. Now, clouds were already a high point in the original, but the updated sky system allows for much sharper and more complex cloud formations. It makes a tremendous difference in terms of creating these large-scale vistas before the player. Essentially, the key here is that, both in terms of detail and environmental effects, the team has been very successful in bringing this game up to par with the second and producing something that genuinely appears gorgeous. It's a game that can actually stand up to other contemporary open-world games. But thus far, we've mostly just spoken about the environment itself. But one of the key factors in making it look this good is the lighting. The original Horizon and Forbidden West both rely on pre-calculated lighting, as opposed to fully real-time global illumination, but the quality of the individual bakes was increased massively, allowing more detail in subtle shadowed regions of the image. This is what they've brought to Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered.
Wow.
Essentially, there's now 12 bespoke times of day captured in the bake, along with many, many more layers to handle verticality. As a result, small details are now properly captured in the lighting system, allowing more nuanced ambient shadowing, while reducing the amount of incorrect light leakage and other issues that we see in the original game. This is
beautiful.
most evident when exploring scenes like this, where in the original Horizon, the scene is basically flooded with this unrealistic orange lighting. It shouldn't be visible in this scene as the sun is completely occluded by the giant stone building itself. As you can see in Remastered, the scene feels a lot more natural to the eye. Areas in shadow are properly shadowed now, which was not the case previously. The thing is, as I learned from talking with Nixies, the improvements to lighting aren't just down to this technology. Instead, the entire game was relit by hand. So while technology was certainly leveraged to improve accuracy, many of the improvements are simply down to more experienced lighting artists working their magic. The combination pays off big time, producing far more striking results in terms of overall scene lighting. Honestly, the changes are significant enough that I'm not even sure the word remaster is the correct one here. There are always arguments over what a remastered game really means, but in most cases, improvements are very minor and the focus is on image quality and performance, essentially bringing it up to par for whatever technology is being used to view the game through a modern system. It's kind of the same thing with movies, right? Horizon Remastered, though, kind of reminds me more of Bluepoint's work on Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls. Okay, perhaps not that ambitious, but it's more in that ballpark than not. There's just this sense that the team went through with a fine-tooth comb and made sure they redid basically everything in the game to look properly modern. Two other quick improvements I wanted to mention, though, are LOD pop-in improvements and foliage interactivity. From this shot, you can see how things like grass are visible at a much greater distance here in the remastered version. There's just a lot less visible pop-in that you'll see while running across the world. It helps make things feel more solid overall, and it's a nice improvement. Secondly, while it's not quite on par with the best we saw in Forbidden West, it's pretty close. Essentially, smaller plants now react to Aloy as you walk through them. There is still some visible clipping, mind you, but it looks a lot better than the original game. You know, where all the plants basically did not interact with Aloy at all, aside from the red grass that you can hide in. But okay, the next thing I think we should discuss here are the characters themselves.
When you see that grass not moving now, hang on, I've got itchy ear. Grass not moving as her legs move through the foliage, it looks kind of odd now, because you get accustomed to this stuff so quickly when you see it actually as it should be, that it looks kind of strange straight away as soon as it's back to the old version. But looking at this still scene here, look at her hair, it looks so much more natural. And it's just much more realistic, it looks marvellous better. Look at the lighting on her chain, or choker thing, whatever it is. Not chain. Hoop necklace? What do you call that? But anyway, it looks... Yeah, this is leaps and bounds better. This is very, very nice indeed, and a lot better than I was expecting.
As well as the packaging around them. You see, all the character models have been updated in this version of the game, but not in the way you might expect. Essentially, all the base polygon meshes are largely the same between this and the original version. Aloy, for instance, still boasts rather sharp knees. But that doesn't mean there haven't been improvements. Essentially, the materials used across every character in the game have been overhauled. Skin is now more realistic, behaving naturally against the light. Clothing is improved, and everything is just more convincingly lit. Aloy herself has received the most improvements, with things like peach fuzz and superior hair quality being added in.
Bum fluff.
More importantly, they improved one of the game's weak points, the conversations. In the original, conversations outside of the main cutscenes were often very stiff and awkward. This was hugely enhanced in the sequel, where they look fantastic. For Remastered, they actually captured many hours worth of new motion capture data. They then built a complex system to integrate the new data into the game. This means character movement and facial animations have been improved and appear more natural. It's not quite at the same level of quality as Forbidden West, I would say, but it's a heck of a lot closer and much more natural. Furthermore, entirely new camera angles have been selected for these scenes, making them feel even more fresh. This all helps a ton in terms of presenting the story to the player. The 5-point lighting system from Forbidden West also makes a return. I know not everyone loves this so-called hero lighting, but I actually think it looks pretty good overall and helps the characters stand out in their respective scenes. The original game used just a pair of lights in comparison, and things were less convincingly integrated into the scene. Furthermore, dynamic lights in general exhibit a wider radius of effect. Like in this scene, you can see creatures light the surrounding environment, while the raging fire, which is off screen by the way, is visible on this tree trunk. Also, in this cutscene, you actually get the warm orange glow from the torches that is completely missing in the rather cold-looking original. There's a ton of other scenes as well where the lighting just feels a lot better. Like here in these Arctic areas, the skin almost looks completely fake here in the original, and it feels a lot better in the remastered version. Thinking of cameras, the camera cuts between different angles have also been enhanced. You remember in that original game, right? There's a lot of garbage and errors that occurred every time the camera cut between different shots. This weird hiccup is still there in Forbidden West and Remastered, but it's a lot better and much less distracting now. Lastly, the improved depth of field that was featured in Forbidden West has also been implemented. It is a far more robust solution with fewer artifacts and is used more strongly than in the original game. Moving away from visuals though, I want to quickly talk about the game's audio.
Nice.
While the core remains much the same, the voice acting, music and whatnot, the audio mix itself has been reworked with better support for 3D audio and surround in general. The mix feels a lot livelier to me, taking better advantage of highs and lows. It's much better when paired with good headphones, but also still notably improved when using a Dolby Atmos speaker setup. Keep in mind that the original is still an amazing sounding game, but this is definitely an improvement. It's difficult to communicate this in a video, but I want to let viewers take a listen to the game's sound and action just to appreciate what's on offer.
Sounds good. Oh, that sounds great.
Good stuff, right? Well, in addition, as you'd
Really
expect, full DualSense support is also included. The haptics are excellent, and I do think this brings something to the game.
good.
It's a subtle but welcome boost. Ultimately, though, when stepping back and looking at the project as a whole, I walked away pretty impressed. As I said at the beginning, I was very skeptical. You can hear me talk about this on prior DF Directs, in fact. I was not sure I wanted to see a studio pour presumably years of work into remaking a game at the expense of making new content. In the end, however, this turned out to be a really good opportunity for Nixies to produce something different than their usual PC conversions. That the team was able to manage this remaster while also releasing a number of PC ports suggests that they were a perfect fit for this project after all. Furthermore, if you already own the game, I think $10 is a fair asking price for this upgrade when considering how much has been added.
That's good. So you can get an upgrade for just $10. He said $10. We're talking American. Presumably it's going to be £10 in UK, is where I'm from. So for the upgrade, and I'm yet to do the New Game Plus. I've platinumed the game, but I've not done the expansion packs yet on Horizon Zero Dawn. So I think this is going to be 10 quid well spent, especially when the Pro comes along. This is another game which is going to be automatically Pro enhanced. So yeah, this is happy days. This is going to be £10. Oh, I'm a bit like him. I wasn't expecting much from this, but I'm a little bit gobsmacked. I wasn't expecting it to be this good.
Is a fair asking price for this upgrade when considering how much has been added. Too much work has been poured into this to offer it as a free upgrade, I think it's fair to say. So given the near perfect technical execution of this remaster, I'd say my initial skepticism was unwarranted in the end. Nixxes did a truly great job here. But with that, we've reached the end of this video, so we'll see you next time.
Wow, well, that is a lot better than I was expecting. I watched this with an open mind. My initial thought was that Horizon Zero Dawn looks so good anyway. On PS4, it's one of the best looking games on PS4. But it looks so good, it didn't need a remaster. But this kind of proves that theory completely wrong. It completely deserves it when it's done to this level. This is how you do a remaster. And a lot of people won't mind paying for a huge overall improvement. So yes, I'm looking forward to it and take my cash, basically. And I'll be looking forward to playing that on a New Game Plus, or whatever it was, with the expansion packs on the PS5 Pro, because I'm going to wait for it to appear on the Pro and play it on that. So there it is. There's the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to bash the like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.